Hello friends, do you know which ruling house of Macedonia Alexander the Great belonged to and how long Alexander the Great's ancestors ruled Macedonia, and was Alexander the Great a descendant of Heraclius? If you want to get answers to these questions, then stay with me till the end of this video. The ruling family to which Alexander the Great belonged was called Arjad dynasty. In this video I will tell you about all the rulers of Arjad dynasty and also tell you the complete history of this dynasty. So let's begin friends. Arjad dynasty, also known as the Dominid dynasty, was an ancient Macedonian royal house of Dorian Greek provenance. The Dorians were one of the four major ethnic groups into which the Hellenes, or Greeks, of classical Greece. Friends, classical Greece was a period of around 200 years, the 5th and 4th centuries BC, in ancient Greece, when Dorians divided themselves, along with the Aeolians, Achaeans, and Ionians. Friends, in the 3rd or 4th century BC there were three brothers named Timaeus, Crisphant, and Aristodemus. This three was the sons of Aristomachus, the great-grandson of Heracles. Timaeus and his brothers complained to the oracle that its instructions had proved fatal to those who had followed them. The oracle said that she had told Hylas, the son of Heracles, to attack through the narrow passage when the third fruit was ripe. They understand the answer that by the third fruit the third generation was meant, and that the narrow passage was not the Isthmus of Corinth, but the Straits of Patras, the capital of Peloponnesus region. They accordingly built a fleet at Naupactus, but before they set sail, Aristodemus was struck by lightning, or shot by Apollo, and the fleet destroyed, because one of the Heraclidae means the descendant of Heracles, had slain an Acarnanian soothsayer. The oracle, being again consulted by Timaeus, bade him offer an expiatory sacrifice and banish the murderer for 10 years, and look out for a man with 3 eyes to act as guide. On his way back to Naupactus, Timaeus fell in with Oxylus, an Aetolian, who had lost 1 eye, riding on a horse, or mule, thus making up the 3 eyes, and immediately pressed him into his service. The Heraclidae repaired their ships, sailed from Naupactus to Antorium, and thence to Rhium in Peloponnesus, the region of Greece. A decisive battle was fought with Timaeus, a mythological king of Argos and son of Orestes, the chief ruler in the peninsula, who was defeated and slain. The Heraclidae, who thus became practically masters of the Peloponnese, proceeded to distribute its territory among themselves by lot. Argos fell to Timaeus, Lacedaemon to Procles and Eurysthenes, the twin sons of Aristodemus, and Messene to Crisphant. The fertile district of Elis had been reserved by agreement for Oxylus. The Heraclidae ruled in Lacedaemon until 221 BC, but disappeared much earlier in the other countries after the death of Timaeus. His 4 sons Cetius, Caranos, Phalces, or Phaedon. Agrius argued about who should be next king. The Prices started war for kingship. As a result, Timaeus' son Phalces or Phaedon defeated his brothers in battle and took over the kingship. His name was not confirmed by history. Some said his name is placed, some said it's Phaedon. After Caranos lost the battle, then he decided to find another kingdom of his own, where he could be king. First, however, he went to the oracle of Delphi to ask Pythias. Pythia was the name of the high priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. She specifically served as its oracle, and was known as the Oracle of Delphi. She advised, "You should find your kingdom there, where you will find plenty of game and domestic animals." Thus Caranos and his entourage moved to the north, in search of suitable land to establish his new kingdom. Finally, he discovered a green valley, with a lot of game and goats, whereupon he thought that the prophecy of Pythia had. Thus he built a city there, which he named Aegae, present-day Vergina. He founded there the kingdom of Macedonia and made Aegae as its capital, and ruled as first king of Macedonia from 808 BC to 778 BC. After his death, his son and successor Sinus became the next king. Sinus ruled Macedonia from 778 to 750 BC. There is nothing more information about Sinus, so after the death of Sinus, his son Turimus was, according to Macedonian tradition, to become a third Arjad king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia. But he is not mentioned in the list of Arjad kings given by Herodotus, who was a Greek historian and geographer from the Greek city of Halicarnassus, part of the Persian Empire, but is first mentioned in the 4th century, when the Macedonian records of the Arjad kings appear to have changed permanently. A fragment of the historian Satyrus records 3 kings before Perdiccas I, who is considered the real founder of the Argead dynasty. In Herodotus list Carinus, Sinus, and Turimus. He ruled Macedonia from 750 to 700 BC. After Turimus, his son Perdiccas I became the next king. Now I give you an overview of Perdiccas' reign. Perdiccas I was a 4th ruler of the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, who reigned from approximately 700 to 678 BC. There is limited information about his reign, but some of his accomplishments and activities during his time as king are as follows. Expansion of the kingdom. Perdiccas I is believed to have expanded the territory of the Macedonian kingdom by conquering neighboring regions, such as Pieria and Bottiaea. This expansion helped to increase the power and influence of the Macedonian state. Establishment of the Argead dynasty. According to some historians, Perdiccas I is considered the real founder of the Argead dynasty, which would rule Macedonia for several centuries. He established his capital at Aegae, modern-day Vergina, which would remain the capital of the Macedonian kingdom throughout much of its history. Building of public works. Perdiccas I is credited with overseeing the construction of several important public works, including the palace at Aegae and the city's agora, marketplace. He also built fortifications and walls to protect his kingdom from invaders. Perdiccas I is remembered as a successful ruler who helped to lay the foundation for the powerful Macedonian state that would emerge under his successor. He was succeeded by his son Argeaeus I in 678 BC. Argeaeus ruled Macedonia from 678 to 640 BC and was succeeded by his son Philip I as king. Philip was noted to be both wise and courageous. He resisted successive invasions by the Illyrians. The Illyrians were a group of Indo-European speaking peoples who inhabited the Western Balkan Peninsula in ancient times. Philip I was eventually killed in battle against them in 602 BC, and leaving the crown to his infant son, Aropus I. At the beginning of Aropus's reign, the Thracians and Illyrians were a group of Indo-European speaking people. Thracians inhabited large parts of Southeast Europe and Illyrians inhabited the Eastern Balkan Peninsula in ancient history. Thracians and the Illyrians were ravaging the country of Macedon, and had achieved a number of successful victories over the Macedonians. Eventually, despairing about their inability to achieve a victory over their enemies, and believing that they could only be victorious if they fought in the presence of their king, the army carried the infant Aropus with them into battle. His presence stiffened the resistance of the soldiers, and they forced the Thracians and Illyrians to flee, eventually retreating entirely from Macedon. According to Plutarch, Aropus constructed tables and lampstands in his spare time. Plutarch was a Greek Middle Platonist philosopher, historian, biographer, essayist, and priest at the Temple of Apollo in Delphi. Aropus was succeeded by his son Alcitos I in 576 BC by all the sources. Alcitos was a calm and stable ruler, who sought to preserve his kingdom through peaceful means. Unlike his predecessors, he apparently did not engage in unnecessary warfare in order to extend the boundaries of his kingdom. Alcitos I succeeded by his son Amyntas I in 547 BC. Amyntas I was the king of Macedonia and also a vassal of Darius the Great from 512 or 511 to his death 498 BC, at the time of Achaemenid Macedonia. Achaemenid Macedonia refers to the period in which the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia was under the sway of the Achaemenid Persians. The one Persian general Megabyzus with the order of Darius the Great forced the Amyntas I to make his kingdom a vassal of the Achaemenids. King Amyntas accepted the Achaemenid domination and submitted his country as a vassal state to Achaemenid Persia in 512 or 511 BC. Amyntas I was succeeded by his son Alexander I in 498 BC. Alexander came to the throne during the era of the kingdom's vassalage to Achaemenid Persia, dating back to the time of his father, Amyntas I, although Macedon retained a broad scope of autonomy. In 492 BC it was made a fully subordinate part of the Persian Empire by the Mardonius campaign. Alexander acted as a representative of the Persian governor Mardonius during peace negotiations after the Persian defeat at the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC. In later events, Herodotus several times mentions Alexander as a man who was on Xerxes' side and followed his orders. From the time of Mardonius' conquest of Macedon, Herodotus refers to Alexander the First as Hyparchos, meaning viceroy. Despite his cooperation with Persia, Alexander frequently gave supplies and advice to the Greek city-states, and warned them of Mardonius' plans before the Battle of Plataea in 479 BC. The Battle of Plataea was the final land battle during the Second Persian invasion of Greece. It took place in 479 BC near the city of Plataea in Boeotia, and was fought between an alliance of the Greek city-states, including Sparta, Athens, Corinth, and Megara, and the Persian Empire with its king Xerxes I, allied with Greece's Boeotians, Thessalians, and Macedonians. For example, Alexander I warned the Greeks in Tempe to leave before the arrival of Xerxes' troops, and notified them of an alternate route into Thessaly through Upper Macedonia. After their defeat in Plataea, the Persian army under the command of Commander Artabazus tried to retreat all the way back to Asia Minor. Most of the 43,000 survivors were attacked and killed by the forces of Alexander at the estuary of the Strymon River. Alexander eventually regained Macedonian independence after the end of the Persian Wars. Alexander had 5 sons: Perdiccas, Menelaus, Philip, Amyntas, Alcitos, and one daughter named Stratonice, who was also the wife of Xerxes II, the ruler of Thrace. Alexander I succeeded by his elder son Perdiccas II in 454 BC. Perdiccas, who was now Perdiccas II after becoming a king of Macedon. When he came to the throne, it was a time when the Macedonian kingdom was facing external and internal threats, including the rising power of Athens and the rebelliousness of some of his own subjects. During his reign, Perdiccas II managed to maintain a fragile peace with Athens, although he was forced to cede some territory to them. He also had to deal with a number of rebellions and uprisings in various parts of his kingdom. Despite these challenges, Perdiccas II is remembered as a relatively successful ruler. He worked to strengthen the Macedonian economy, expanded the royal palace at Aegae, and is said to have established the Macedonian cavalry as a formidable military force. Perdiccas was also faced with the rebellion of his younger brother Philip, who challenged Perdiccas for the throne. That's why Perdiccas II's reign was not without difficulties. He managed to navigate the complex political landscape of his time but leave a positive legacy for future generations of Macedonian rulers. Perdiccas II died in 413 BC and was succeeded by his elder son Archelaus I. After Archelaus took power, he was faced with a situation which allowed him to completely reverse Macedon's relationship with Athens, which had been a major threat for the past half-century. The Athenians experienced a crushing defeat at Syracuse in late 413, during which most of their ships were destroyed. This left the Athenians in desperate need of a huge amount of timber to build new ships, and Archelaus in a position to set the price. Archelaus generously supplied the Athenians with the timber they needed. In recognition of this, the Athenians honored Archelaus and his children with the titles of Proxenos and Euergetes. Archelaus went on to institute many internal reforms. He issued an abundance of good quality coinage. He built strongholds, cut straight roads, important for movement of the military, and improved the organization of the military, particularly the cavalry and hoplite infantry. And he is also famous for move the capital from Aegae to Archelaus was killed in 399 BC during a hunt by one of the royal pages, Crateues. According to Aelian, but many historians wrote different about his murder. After Archelaus I's assassination, his son Orestes succeeded him in his minority as king. He reigned between 399 to 396 BC under his guardian Aropus II, who killed him for the throne. After killing Orestes, Aropus reigned alone until 394 BC. The first 4 years of this time he reigned jointly with Orestes, whom he murdered, and the remainder alone. After his death by illness, he was succeeded by Archelaus II in 394 BC. Archelaus II was the son of Archelaus I. Archelaus II reigned just for 1 year. He died while out hunting, either by accident or assassination, and succeeded by Amyntas II in 393 BC. Amyntas II was the son of Menelaus, the second son of Alexander I. In 429 BC, Amyntas, aided by Sitalces, the king of the Odrysian kingdom, actively sought to contest with Perdiccas to the throne of Macedonia itself. But the latter contrived to obtain a peace agreement through the mediation of Xerxes, the nephew of the Thracian king. Therefore, Amyntas was obliged to content himself with his hereditary principality. He nonetheless became king 393 BC, but he was soon after assassinated by an Elymaeotan nobleman named Darius. Illyriotis or Illyrmia was a region of Upper Macedonia. The ancient kingdom of Macedonia extended into parts of neighboring countries. Within the kingdom, there were two main regions known as Upper Macedonia and Lower Macedonia. Upper Macedonia was located in the mountainous northern region of the kingdom and was primarily inhabited by the Macedonian tribes. This region was the birthplace of the Macedonian royal family and was also the site of several important battles. Lower Macedonia was located in the southern part of the kingdom, and it was a more fertile region that included important cities such as Pella, the capital of the kingdom. This region was known for its rich agriculture, and was also an important center of trade and commerce. Amuntus II was succeeded by Pausanias. Pausanias was the son of Aropus. He was assassinated in 393 BCE, by Amuntus III. Amuntus III was the son of Arhidius, son of Amuntus III, son of Alexander I. Amuntus III had many enemies at home. In 393 he was driven out from the throne by Argaeus II with the help of Illyrians and proclaimed himself the king and kept possession of the throne for about a year. But in 392 BC Amuntus III with the help of Thessalians overthrew King Argaeus II and took back the kingdom from him. Amuntus III faced significant challenges during his reign, including internal political struggles and external threats from neighboring states. He was able to maintain the independence of Macedonia and expand its territory through strategic alliances and military campaigns. However, his personal life was not so easy. His own wife Eurydice conspired with her son-in-law Ptolemy of Alaros to kill Amuntus, then marry Ptolemy, and then give the throne to her lover. But the queen's daughter, Eurino, foiled the plot by revealing it to her father, Amuntus, who, nevertheless, spared Eurydice from punishment. Because of their common children, Amuntus had three sons: Alexander II, Perdiccas III, Philip II, and a daughter Eurino from Eurydice. Amuntus had three more sons: Archelaus, Arhidius and Menelaus by his second wife, Gygia, according to historian Justin. Amuntus died at aged 50 in 370 BC, and leaving his throne to his eldest son, Alexander II. Alexander II succeeded his father to the throne at the age of around 15. During his short reign, Alexander II faced challenges from rival claimants to the throne, as well as from neighboring Greek city-states. He was known for his attempts to strengthen his kingdom by reforming the military and establishing alliances with neighboring tribes. However, his reign was cut short by his assassination by his brother-in-law Ptolemy of Alaros in 368 BC, and was succeeded by his brother Perdiccas III, but he was a child at the time, so the Ptolemy of Alaros ruled as regent for Perdiccas III. But in 365 BC, Perdiccas killed Ptolemy and assumed government. Perdiccas III died in 359 BC and was succeeded by his infant son, Amuntus IV. He was only a child at that time. Perdiccas' brother, Philip II, became his tutor and regent. But in that same year, Philip declared himself king of Macedonia, expropriating his young nephew. Amuntus was not judged dangerous enough to be a menace to Philip, who even gave him his daughter Canaan in marriage. The succession of Amuntus' cousin Alexander in 336 BC changed things. Alexander immediately had Amuntus executed. Amuntus IV was a daughter Eurydice II of Macedon with Canaan, who later became a wife of Philip III. Philip II was a powerful king and military commander who reigned over ancient Macedonia from 359 to 336 BCE. He is considered one of the most successful military leaders in ancient history and is known for transforming Macedonia into a major military and political power. Philip II came to the throne at a time when Macedonia was in disarray and vulnerable to attack from neighboring states. He quickly set about strengthening the Macedonian army, reorganizing it into a professional force and introducing new tactics. One of Philip II's most notable accomplishments was the creation of the Macedonian phalanx, a tightly packed formation of infantry armed with long spears called sarusses. This formation proved to be highly effective in battle and would become a key component of Alexander the Great's conquests. Under Philip's leadership, Macedonia also expanded its territory through conquest. He waged successful campaigns against neighboring Thessaly, Illyria, and Thrace, bringing these regions under Macedonian control. Philip's most famous conquest, however, was his invasion of Greece. In 338 BCE, he led the Macedonian army against a coalition of Greek city-states in the Battle of Chaeronea. The Macedonians emerged victorious, and Philip became the dominant power in Greece. Philip II was also known for his political reforms, which included the creation of a centralized administrative system and the establishment of a professional bureaucracy. He also encouraged trade and commerce, which helped to boost the Macedonian economy. Despite his many achievements, Philip II's reign was cut short when he was assassinated in 336 BCE by his royal bodyguard. Philip II was married 7 times. His first marriage was from Audita, the daughter of Illyrian king Bartholus. He had a daughter Canaan from this marriage. Philip's second marriage was from Phila of Illymia, the sister of Dirdas and Maucatas of Illymiotis. There is no record of her children with Philip. His third marriage was from Nicepolis. He had a daughter with her name Thessalonica. His fourth marriage was from Olympias, the daughter of King Neoptolemus I of Epirus. Philip had 2 kids with her, Alexander the Great and Cleopatra. His fifth marriage was from Philina of Larissa. From her he had a son Arhidius, later called Philip III of Macedon. His sixth wife was Meta of Odsos, daughter of the king Kothelas of Thrace. His seventh was Cleopatra, daughter of Hippostratus and niece of General Attalus of Macedonia. Philip renamed her Cleopatra Eurydice of Macedon. He had 2 children with her, daughter Europa and son Carinus. After Philip II, his second son Alexander III became the next king, who would go on to continue his father's legacy and conquer much of the known world. He became king at the age of 20 and spent the next 13 years leading his army on a campaign to conquer Persia, Egypt, and much of the Middle East. He is known for his military tactics and his ability to inspire his soldiers, as well as his interest in Greek culture and philosophy. Alexander the Great married 3 times. His first wife was Roxana, a Bactrian princess. From her he had 1 son, Alexander IV. His second wife was Statesira, daughter of Darius III of Persia. His third wife was Parysatis, the youngest daughter of Artaxerxes III of Persia. However, some historians said he had a relationship with Barsine, who was the daughter of a Persian father, Artabazus, satrap of Hellespontine Phrygia. By her he had 1 son, Heracles. Barsine is sometimes confused with Statesira II, second wife of Alexander, and who also may have been called Barsine. After Alexander's death in 323 BC, his empire was jointly ruled by his half-brother Philip III and his son Alexander IV, who was unborn at the time when his father Alexander the Great died, but when he was born he was jointly ruled with his uncle Philip III. Arhidius and Alexander IV were both kings of Macedonia, but their reigns were marked by turmoil and instability due to the power struggles and conflicts that arose after the death of Alexander the Great, their predecessor and relative. Philip III was born with a developmental disability, which made him unsuitable to rule on his own. He was made joint king with Alexander the Great's infant son, Alexander IV. However, Philip III's reign was largely controlled by his regent, Perdiccas, who was one of Alexander's top generals. Perdiccas was assassinated in 321 BC, and Philip III was then put under the control of another regent, Antipater, who served as regent until his death in 319 BC. During this time, there were many power struggles between various factions of Alexander's generals and family members, which caused instability in the kingdom. Philip III died in 317 BC, possibly due to poisoning. After Philip's death, infant Alexander IV reigned alone under the control of his mother, Roxana, and her powerful advisor, the eunuch Bagoas. However, the other generals and family members of Alexander the Great also vied for control of the young king and his kingdom. In 316 BC, the general Cassander seized control of the kingdom and imprisoned Roxana and Alexander IV. Cassander eventually had Roxana and Alexander IV murdered in 309 or 310 BC, in order to secure his own power and prevent any future challenges to his rule. Macedonian unity collapsed, and 40 years of war between the successors, Diadochi, ensued before the Hellenistic world settled into 4 stable power blocks: Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Mesopotamia, and Central Asia, Attalid Anatolia, and Antigonid Macedon. The Hellenistic world called the period between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the rise of Rome in 31 BC. Now I am going to answer an important question: was Alexander the Great a descendant of Heracles? This question is difficult to answer because some historians consider Keranos, Koinos, and Terimas to be myths. And Perdiccas I was considered the real founder and the first king of the Arjad kingdom of Macedonia. If all historians agreed that the Keranos were the first king of Macedonia, then we could say that Alexander was a descendant of Heracles. So guys, hope you like the video guys. Let me know in the comment box what you thought. Thank you so much to watch my video, and I'll see you in the next video soon.